Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. I don't know if you've heard, but history has been made in California. They have a black female senator now. I know what you're thinking, but didn't they have an Asian woman who occasionally claimed to be a black senator just a few years ago? Yes, my friends, Kamala Harris was a senator from California just 3 years ago, but history has been made again. Because this black female senator is a lesbian. Since this is history and all, I have to wonder when they're going to have a holiday named in this new senator's honor. After all, it is history. About this new senator, Laphonza Butler, she was appointed by Governor Gov Newsom to fill out the remainder of the now deceased Diane Feinstein's term. Now, how did they choose her? Not exactly sure, but you know that this is the California political machine we're talking about here, so whatever the process was, it wasn't an honest one. And the Democrats, of course, are going overboard trying to make a big deal about this woman as if they love her so much, when the truth of the matter is 99% of them didn't even know who the hell she was before yesterday. Obviously, Gov Newsom, he wants to at least make it clear that he would like to be considered for a presidential nomination, and that being the case, he understands that just like Biden and the rest of the Democratic Party, they're going to need black votes, and since black men have broken bad on them, they're desperately trying to see if there's any more mileage left in the black female vote that they thought that they had under their thumb. See, that's the reason why Biden made Kamala Harris his vice president. He thought that would lock up the black female vote. That's why Biden made a black woman the ambassador to the UN. That's why Ketanji Brown's on the Supreme Court. And that's why he made Karine Stank-Pierre his press secretary. Now, this Butler woman is LGBT. That's why Gov Newsom felt that she was an excellent choice. She's a black woman, but she primarily identifies as LGBT, so they don't have to worry so much about her doing anything like, say, advocating for black people. Same way Raphael Warnock hasn't been stomping for us either. He's been a senator, he preached at Dr. King's church, and he ain't barely said a peep about black folks. He's nothing like Dr. King at all. That's why the Democrats gave him millions and millions of dollars to run for office. Another thing about this Butler woman, she used to be an advisor to Kamala Harris for her failed 2020 election campaign, so that shows how great her political acumen is. I wonder if she was the one who told Kamala to do that super cringy video where she pretended to dance to Cardi B. See, it's like Dr. Claude Anderson said, most of these bootlicking Negroes you see are trying to get some kind of consulting gig. That's what most of them do. Every time you look up, you see Roly-Poly Martin wiping butter biscuit crumbs from his mouth and saying, y'all Democrats need to make me a consultant for y'all. Y'all need someone who knows how to talk to these black voters. He's been auditioning for a consulting job from the DNC for years now, and he's not alone. This is the bootlick hustle, to be an alleged consultant. But that's not all. Before Governor Newsom plucked this Butler woman from obscurity, she had been working for a group called Emily's List. They're a political action committee whose mission is to elect Democratic female candidates who are in favor of abortion. That's their big stipulation. You can't just be a Democrat or just a Democrat female. That ain't enough. You have to be a Democrat female who's in favor of abortion. Now, I want you to think about all the problems and challenges and issues the black community faces. Of all the things on your mental list, is even one of them that we're not having enough abortions? Of course not. This woman is LGBT, so pregnancy isn't really much of a concern for her, and yet she's working for a group who concerns itself with abortion. And they want to specifically get women into elected office. Not even black women, just women, period. Now, this is, of course, more low-key gender-warring crap. Democrats see black men as a constituency are breaking bad, and at this point, their last-ditch effort is to try to see if they can flood the zone with reliable black female operatives, in the hope that this will get all of those black female voters' hearts to go pitter-pat. Spoiler, it hasn't. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to see if they can selectively float money to groups if they're promoting women, and maybe some black women will get something out of it too. And then we'll have people like Michelle Obama saying that black women are getting elected to political offices at higher rates, far more than black men. And see, that proves that black women are better and smarter and harder working. But in reality, the only thing it actually proves is that the Democratic National Committee is putting an emphasis on recruiting and funding black female candidates. That's how these things happen, by the way. It wasn't just a matter of 2 election cycles ago, black women were not running for anything, and now all of a sudden, overnight, here they are. You gotta follow the money, folks. And they ain't giving money to these black women because they like them. They're giving money to them because they think that these black women might be useful, at least as far as their image value goes. The value of hopefully black women seeing all of these bought and paid for operatives for the DNC who are concerned about abortions and concerned about immigration and concerned about gun control, but don't give a damn about black people's tangibles. They're hoping that that's going to be their golden ticket. This Butler woman has no real connections to us, not in any meaningful way, and she has not and is not promising to do anything for us. Though she is dedicated to white feminists, Gov Newsom, when he was talking about why it was that he decided to put her in the Senate, he was talking all about what she's done for women and girls. Yeah, he dang sure ain't talking about no reparations or for the black community. This is white power giving itself a gift and then lying and claiming that they bought it for us. She's just another tool of white supremacy. That's why Kamala Harris wanted to swear her in, like with like, I always say. By the way, has anyone seen Kamala Harris's zaddy lately? Douglas Emhoff? Anybody seen him lately? Or at all? All these Negroes in Congress are on the take, and seniority is a big part of maintaining the scam. A young corrupt crook becomes an old corrupt crook. And by the time they're old, they've been serving white power for so long, and they are so hopelessly dependent on it, it's impossible for them to do anything else. Which is exactly what white power wants. Though there is something that needs to be said about having all these old fools running things, and why it's catastrophic for a society, especially one that's fast changing like this one in the modern world. The U.S. is not a democracy, we all know that. Though at this point the U.S. is starting to look like a necrocracy. The nation is ruled by a bunch of decrepit old folks, and in the cases of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Diane Feinstein, and Mitch McConnell, these people have got one foot in the grave. The final days of John McCain's life saw him as a U.S. senator still holding office, and also dying from cancer. This man was in a hospice. This man's life was ebbing away from him. Everybody could see it. Everybody's saying he's going to be dead soon. The man couldn't even walk or talk anymore, just like Diane Feinstein, and yet McCain didn't give up his Senate seat. Dying from a brain tumor. He had been given the diagnosis a long time before his death, but he just refused to step down. He was not about to let a replacement be appointed to his seat. See, that's the way that these politicians look at the political offices that they hold. These offices don't belong to the people, it belongs to them. The McCains, the Feinsteins, and the rest of them. And they'll be damned before they resign. That political office is their personal property as they see it. As a result, these guys hold on to office until the day they die. So the government is literally in the hands of the dead. And these corporations like it that way. The rich and powerful like it exactly like this. They spend a lot of money and spend a lot of time setting up to be just like this. A system that cannot possibly respond to the needs of the people because you literally have the dead, the dying, and the dumb running things. The only thing Nancy Pelosi ever knew how to do was to ask for political donations. Even if you're one of these DNC shill plant trolls who lurk around places like this, you still have to admit, taking black people's tangibles out of the equation, you still have to admit there's a ton of problems facing the country. From the cost of living to regulations to the effect of technology firms on political discourse and on the ability of people to make a living. But the folks in Congress don't care and their corporate paymasters like it that way. Does anyone seriously think that Joe Biden gives a rip about skyrocketing home prices? He's already rich, so are his brats, kids. Do you seriously think that Nancy Pelosi cares about price gouging and constant price hikes on everything from groceries to video game consoles to airline tickets? Every business out there is taking up using the scam of nickel and diming customers on everything, and nobody who's supposed to be regulating these companies says boo about it. There's a concept that I like to call market tampering. When I use that term, I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm talking about when you have rings of grifters, criminal rings actually, who will buy a ton of highly sought-after consumer items. Things like name brand tennis shoes, electronics, computer opponents, concert tickets, things that people have highly in demand that they want right now. And these people buy them from websites like Walmart and Best Buy and Target. They buy them by the thousands using bots and other computerized software to do these transactions. And then these criminal rings will resell those items online at hugely inflated prices, usually through eBay or Amazon. Now, these people are not brick-and-mortar operations, and what they're doing is surely breaking laws, and it's been going on for a long time. But the politicians aren't even talking about it, much less passing any laws to combat it. And why is that? Because when these crime rings buy up all this merchandise, where do they sell it? eBay and Amazon. And both eBay and Amazon operate out of Nancy Pelosi's district, but she's never said a word about this, and she's not going to. She's 83 years old, and she says she's going to run for re-election next year. For those of you who don't know, she only stepped down as minority leader. She didn't resign from Congress. She's still there. While we're on the subject of criminals using these online websites in order to sell their ill-gotten gains, you've probably heard a lot about these smash-and-grab robberies, especially out in California. Hordes of thieves will bums rush a department store and steal name-brand merchandise like expensive handbags and other things. And that stolen merchandise will pop up a few days later on auction sites like eBay and others. Graphics processors for computers is another popular item for these criminal rings. The crypto bros like to buy them in bulk so that they can make their own homemade supercomputers and do crypto mining. Now, the companies who make these components know all about this. AMD, Nvidia. In fact, they've recently started making certain graphics cards that basically are made so that they're easier to use for crypto mining. Crypto mining uses tons of electricity, and it's hideously wasteful. But these corporations don't care. Not AMD, not Intel, not eBay, not Amazon, not Best Buy, not Walmart, not any of them. Why? Because they're all making money off of this practice. People have told Amazon and eBay all about this, but none of those websites do anything about it because they already know this type of criminality is big business. And it adds to eBay and Amazon and Walmart and Best Buy's bottom lines. Long as these crime rings are out there buying merchandise in bulk, that means that the sales for these items will be artificially higher for a longer duration of time. So everybody from the manufacturers of these components to the online retailers who sell them have every incentive to continue this practice, as destructive and damning as it is economically, environmentally, and every other way. To these companies, these crime rings are a benefit, and they don't want it stopped. See, when scalpers were using bots to buy concert tickets in bulk back in the day, that's when it started. They would resell them for a fortune. The politicians didn't care because they don't go to concerts, and even if they did, they would get VIP treatment, so concert tickets are something for the rabble. That's for the plebes. I'm sure that more than a few of you worry about whether you'll ever own a house, or if you can afford rent, because the costs for both are rising exponentially. Well, you know who's not worrying? Your politicians, because many of them are involved in the real estate market. Many of them have direct ties to these real estate organizations. They make money off of this. At least their family and friends do. They've got connections to companies like BlackRock, who are literally buying up entire neighborhoods and then declaring that all of these houses that they bought will not be for sale. They'll only be for rent. And the real estate developers who want housing prices to stay high, that's because those houses are their investment. And if more houses get built, then their investment will lose its value. For them, it's all about making sure that they maintain this artificial status quo. At this point, no thinking person actually believes these codgers in elected office know about this or even care. Old people have a big problem. They won't fight for anything. They simply want to coast until they slip into the grave. These old fossils are the perfect useful idiots for established power. They know nothing about technology, and they don't care about the way these companies charge people because airlines let them fly first class, because the airlines make sure they do no matter who has reserved the seat. And it goes across the board for these guys. It's all of their little perks, and that's all they live for. It is deadly to a society to have a bunch of decrepit mummies running things. They're not the best and brightest. They're the dead and the dying. And in other news on Capitol Hill, the speaker got silenced. Welcome to the circus. Oh, when performative extremism goes wrong. Kevin McCarthy, the now former Speaker of the House, he went through that humiliating 15 votes just so he could get the gavel, and part of the deal that he made was that he would allow the creeps in the Freedom Caucus to have veto power over everything that he did, as if they weren't going to use it. He's found out the hard way that catering to the crazies doesn't make them less crazy. It only emboldens them. Kevin McCarthy has learned now that there's no way that he's going to be able to shame them into civilized behavior. You can't out-crazy the crazies, especially not when you're giving them everything they want. And as for us, this is an internal competition that goes on among the various factions of white power. The elites of white supremacy like to make it where its operatives have to compete to win their favor. This is how they confirm who's truly dedicated to doing their bidding. As the Democrats see it, the performative extremism of the MAGA caucus has turned the Republicans in Congress dysfunctional. And for the Democrats, this is about making sure the Republicans are forced to put that dysfunction on full display. This is the usual palace intrigue and jockeying for position that the tools always do. It's a high-stakes game, for them. But keep in mind, no matter what the Democrats and Republicans may say about each other, that's not who they're competing against. Kevin McCarthy still has his congressional seat, and even if he was voted out of Congress, all these fools go and get cushy corporate jobs when they leave Congress anyway. That's what happens. And both parties do this. That's because both parties are on the exact same team, and their opponent isn't the other political party. It's black people, because we constitute the only threat to their meal ticket. You got new bootlicks coming in, and none of the old ones are leaving. No matter how much the white media tries to get you to emotionally invest in the spitball fight going on Capitol Hill, just remember one thing. Those creeps in Washington are just playing the political equivalent of musical chairs. But we are the ones who always get stuck without a place to sit when the music stops. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Eugene Moore, Burkett Cochrane, Nancy, G. Mars, and Ronald Waits. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.